This is Real Estate Real Talk, a weekly podcast about real estate industry news that actually matters, hosted by some of the industry's leading agents. Here are this week's hosts.
Welcome back to another episode of Real Estate Real Talk. This season, we're hosting interviews with leaders in the industry to get their insights on current topics that affect real estate. Today, we're talking with Eric Ravenscroft about client relationships and the future of real estate. Eric, please tell us a little bit about yourself and your real estate career.
My name is Eric Ravenscroft. I'm based here in Phoenix, Arizona. So I am a real estate advisor, realtor as well. And I've been in real estate a total of now going on 15 years.
Thanks, Eric. In your experience, why do you think it's important for real estate professionals to empower clients beyond the sale, helping them to think long-term about home ownership and wealth building?
I talk about this a lot, and my background is in the financial planning world. So financial planning and real estate, my whole goal was to bridge the two. And when we look at real estate, it's the biggest wealth lever that most people will ever touch. People have stocks, bonds, other investments, but from a price standpoint, it's one of the biggest purchases. So that's where I kind of take it to the next level to try to bridge those two industries of real estate and financial planning to really help people see the true value in real estate.
How do you communicate to your clients that real estate isn't just a transaction, but a foundational part of that longer financial journey that they're on?
Looking at several things from, we have how you build equity in the home, long-term appreciation, of course, tax strategies, leverage, a lot of different things that you can do with real estate outside of just, living in it. So really, I think the tax strategy is one big piece, the leverage, and then of course, the appreciation side of things. And it's tangible. That's another thing that I really hit home with people from an investment standpoint is, you can't live in a mutual fund. You can't live in a stock. So on that side of things, with regards to real estate, it is housing. It's something tangible that, you can not only live in, but it's an investment. And then of course you can leverage it, whether you, turn it around to sell it or you rent it out.
As a real estate agent, I'm sure you deal with first-time homebuyers a lot. What would you say is a common misconception these homebuyers have when they go to make that first home purchase? And what do you say is one key piece of knowledge that every first-time homebuyer should be aware of?
It's really looking at real estate as a long-term investment. And I'll say it in a long-term asset, because that's what it is at the end of the day. And what I mean by that is, especially for first-time homebuyers, a lot of times they'll look at it and say, okay, this home checks 3 of the 4 boxes for us right now, but we're not really looking in year 3, year 5, year 10, thinking of things such as exit plans or exit strategy or rental potential or tax implications, or what's the resale look like for this home when we are ready to sell it or say rent it out. Just actually had this conversation last week with some first-time home buyers. Love the home, but when I look at things that's going to affect resale, it's backed up to a busy street. It backed up to power lines. It might not have bothered them because they're looking at the short term, but in the future, those are things that we can't change. That's going to affect not only appreciation, it's going to affect your ability to, get the highest price possible for a rental, but it's also going to factor in and affect, your resale value. So that's what I kind of try to hit home a lot, regardless if it's a first-time home buyer, repeat buyer, investor, is we need to think long-term. Real estate is meant to be a long-term asset versus looking at it from a short-term perspective.
As we look at the long term, do you have an example where educating a client, whether it be about refinancing or home maintenance or that long-term equity, led to a meaningful aha moment for them and maybe even future business or a referral?
Yeah. So there's a lot of examples that come to mind. I'll just kind of talk on the strategy or kind of the AHA framework with regards to the topic. So every year I do planning calls with clients that ranges from whether it's financial related, that's tax related, that's life related. And then of course, looking at the home as an asset and the options that they have from a wealth building perspective. So a big aha moment for many is initially they think, oh, I want to sell and then I want to trade up, or I want to downsize and want to go buy a new build, which are very popular here in Phoenix. What I do is kind of help them look at the alternative of in 5 years and 10 years, are we going to look back and say, why did we sell this home? We have a rate that's 2.5%, 3%. we have a huge amount of equity and we can cash flow on this by turning it into a rental. So that is a big aha moment for many when I run a projection showing to them, hey, you can keep the asset. It's going to grow in value. Someone else is paying your mortgage that you have on it. Plus, you're taking advantage of tax benefits, do a full tax plan for them of that benefit. And then, of course, looking at the rental income. And then, of course, they have the option down the road if they wanted to sell it, then they could do so. So that is a big aha moment for many that automatically usually kind of default to just say, oh, I'm going to sell and then buy something else. You can still rent it, keep it, take advantage of that long-term asset and appreciating and still buy something else and still downsize. So that is the big strategy. I'd say that, half of the clients that I talk to with those planning calls or just normal follow-up calls is the big thing that comes up time and time again.
Well, that's good information and strategy to take for yourself as a real estate agent as well. So I'm curious, what's your background when it comes to investment properties and property management? As I know that it's been a really hot topic when it comes to our educational courses. So I'm curious if you've dabbled in that and if that's something you would not only suggest to home buyers, but also real estate agents to grow their wealth as well.
Yeah, real estate agents, we have a very favorable tax code, let's just say, where we're qualified as a real estate professional, obviously by what we do, but also in the eyes of the IRS from the tax code. We have a ton of benefits by acquiring and owning property as rentals where we can save a ton of money on taxes. So there's certain strategies where if you are a real estate agent, you're full time. That's your career. That's what you do day in, day out. And you buy investment properties, you can what's called front load or take advantage of bonus depreciation, where you can wipe out a whole year of taxes, whether it's your income from real estate. If you're married and your spouse has a W-2 paying job, you can wipe out that income. If you are utilizing some kind of advanced financial planning strategies with conversions and mega backdoor Roths, you can wipe out the tax liability simply by owning property that is a rental. So yes, it's great for clients. Clients can still do that. There's a loophole that they have to follow. It has to be a vacation rental. But for real estate agents, it doesn't matter. It could be a long-term rental, a short-term rental, a mid-term rental. So tons and tons of benefits for agents. I preach it all the time that if you are a real estate agent, and you are not happy about paying taxes, there's a way to not pay taxes and help your future self, through acquiring property. So I have a portfolio myself. I even preach to my clients, other real estate professionals, kind of a guide of how you acquire properties, how you implement these tax strategies to really impact your financial well-being significantly over time.
What strategies do you use to keep up the relationships with current clients?
So one big thing, as I mentioned, is I do annual calls for clients. Some clients have 2 calls a year. I just am in right now 2026 planning, which I'm happy to report 70% of my clients sign up for those. So there's a huge value add with those planning calls. And it goes through a lot of different things. So I kind of meet where clients are at. I'm not trying to overwhelm them with this is what you need to do here. This is what you need to do here. It's simply where are you at now? Where do you want to be? And then there's progress along the way. So the next planning call we have, we're picking up where we left off. So that could be, cost comparison analysis. So I use specific software to analyze clients' cost. They could be, here in Arizona looking to upgrade, they're looking to downsize. They want to see what that total number is. Maybe it's a different city. Maybe they want to move to a completely different part of town, or it's people outside of Phoenix, outside of Arizona that want to move here. They want to see what that financial impact would look like, right? They want to see if it's going to cost them more. They want to see how much they'd be saving to help them make that decision. And that's a big piece of it too with these planning calls. This is something I would say most real estate agents don't do. And there's a huge opportunity for it because of the planning calls that I've done with, let's call them leads, maybe some soft referrals from other partners. 9 out of 10 times I'm closing them on the idea of a move because I'm laying out the numbers for them. I'm showing them you're spending $30,000 more a year by being here, and then showing them how much farther their dollar can go. So things like a cost comparison analysis with regards to, say, investors, analyzing the property, giving them insights and recommendations on what more could be done to the home to increase revenue, to help with appreciation. Same with those that have short-term rentals or vacation rentals. I now implement a kind of think of it as like an audit where I'm pulling their vacation rental and giving them insights on what needs to be improved with the listing, whether it's photos, whether they need to convert a room to increase their bedroom count for maximum occupancy, which will drive more revenue. If they need to add a hot tub or some type of gaming element, and then help them with SEO. If I type into Google something about Goodyear, Arizona or Scottsdale, Arizona property, a vacation rental, are you ranking in the top 2? If not, you need to be working on your SEO. So those are just some of the examples of things that I do with regards to that planning call. Yeah. So predicting kind of what my planning calls will look like in the next 5 years, I think a lot of it is just going to be looking at things from what people are going to value. And what I mean by that is I see, even in 5 years, I see the transactional agent being replaced. It's phasing out. For me, my planning calls very well could stay the same because I feel like I'm a little bit ahead of the industry by doing this because I am integrating that financial planning piece. So I see as things continue migration between the financial world and the real estate world by looking at things at more from a holistic lens. But I see the transactional agent phasing out. You need to be kind of providing value. I know a lot of people aren't going to be providing financial insight. They don't have the background, but that value add, right? What is your client looking for? What is your ideal network looking for? What do they need? And I think that's where I've morphed it year after year to now I offer surveys. I send a survey out every single year in December asking what do people want to see? What do they want to see more of? What do they want to see less of? What can I do with these planning calls that would be beneficial? Is it full reports? Is it in-person meetings where I go through the home and show you things that you can do to improve its value? Who knows where it could be in 2020, in 2030? But those are kind of things I'd say steps that I've been doing to continuously improve those planning calls. And just kind of advice for agents is if you're not doing planning calls, it's something your clients want. I mean, 70% of my clients signing up for it, that's a very small sample size, but there are clients that will definitely take you up on that as long as it's very, very much, value driven.
That's really useful, Eric. If an agent wanted to start these yearly one-on-one meetings with their clients, how do you recommend they begin?
So encouraging agents to just start with planning calls. A few steps just to implement it. I'd say if you're not using a scheduling service, an online calendar such as Calendly, Google has a free calendar that you can utilize, some type of online scheduling that'll make your life a lot easier versus calls and emails and texts and trying to manage that. So that makes it very, very easy. So obviously having a CRM with the ability to send out emails. So my planning email goes out the first week of every November. And from there, it provides the link to the online calendar and that calendar is active. So if someone just booked, a Tuesday at 12 p.m., that time is blocked out. So I'm not having to manage it. It shows up on my phone. It shows up on my calendar. So I know right then and there, okay, this is my day today. This is my week. So I'd say first step, online calendar. That helps more than just with planning calls. If you have a new lead, you want to talk to an agent partner, vendor, whatever that may look like, that's going to help just organize you tremendously. And then it's sending out that email, spelling out, hey, this is what my planning calls will consist of. Like I said, you might not have a financial background. Say you have a design background and you can offer insights on design. Say, you have a background with regards to anything else. My mind works in the number division. So from a creative standpoint, probably, not the best person to ask about that, but find that value add. But more importantly, with the planning call is ask your clients what they want because you're not going to know what they want unless you ask. I found that out really early on because I saw the opportunity where there was no one educating from the financial standpoint. This was a thought I've had for years and years and years to bridge the two. So I'd say get started, ask your clients, what they want in a planning call. Tell them what a planning call is. Feel free to use, some of my examples of what I talk about in a planning call. There's tons of tools out there too, where you don't have to be an expert in everything. There's financial calculators out there. There's projections. There's software that analyzes how much they can earn in revenue as a rental. You can utilize those resources versus trying to be, an expert in all of it.
I love that there's a variety of ways these meetings could look depending on the agent's strengths and the client's needs. Can you go more into detail about the software that you use?
Home report cards are huge. If you're not using a service that provides a monthly home report card, that is key. That's kind of the framework or benchmark of some of the planning calls, is leading with, this is where your home is at based on value. This is your current equity position. This is how much you can rent out the home. If there's opportunities to refinance, that home report card will have everything. And there's tons and tons of providers that offer that type of service. So I'd say definitely utilizing a home report card, definitely utilizing an online calendar, a CRM that can send emails. And then from there, it's just finding what people want. One tool that I'll share that I use, I've essentially tweaked it for real estate purposes, is a software called Trello. So Trello is a project management software. I use it for real estate purposes while every client has their own board. So say during the planning call, I gave the client action items and I want them to do 3 things before our next planning call. Or maybe it's by the end of the year. In 2 months, it keeps them on track. It sends them reminders. It shows them a due date. Say it's things with the home and they're sending pictures. Hey, Eric, we did this to the home. Then I can add insights. I can add notes. If we did a financial projection, say if it's a plan of I want to downsize in a year, there's a financial projection in there of what that would look like if they were to keep it, if they were to sell it, or if they were to rent it out. So they have a dashboard at all times that they can always reference. I can always add things. So it's very, very interactive. Trello has a free version. You can also pay $5 a month to unlock a ton of tools. So I definitely recommend getting your clients on some type of dashboard to keep them engaged, because again, very, very few agents are doing something like this and providing that type of experience.
So, Eric, what are your thoughts on working with renters, nurturing that relationship, and getting them to the path of home ownership?
Yeah, so that's a great question. It's a great topic. So I do work with renters. I have partners here in the Phoenix Metro, whether it's working with property managers to ensure to find them, the right home. But everything that I mentioned extends to renters as well. And honestly, they're the ones that probably need it more than most. But projections to show if you continue to rent, this is your wealth projection. If you buy, this is your wealth projection, and really getting deep into the why of renting. Because in some markets, renting is significantly cheaper. In other markets, it's not. It's actually more expensive, especially like a market like Phoenix. We have builders offering tons and tons of incentives. Your mortgage payment's going to be less than what you would rent for. So educating on, again, a financial horizon, understanding the why of renting. And if you're providing a ton of value to renters that are say, I'm always going to be a renter, that's okay, right? That is their choice. That's the path that they're on. They may want to use their money for other investments. Tap into that referral opportunity, right? Who do you know that home ownership could make sense for them? The fact that you're not, turning your back to them, never contacting them again because they say they're a renter, you lose out on opportunity elsewhere. You lose out on referrals. So being that advisor for everyone, there's people that I've worked with and done planning calls for 10 years. They've never bought anything. They've never sold anything. I've probably gotten 6 referrals from them because we continue that relationship. I've helped them find a job. They've gotten me connected to people. So, and I think that's kind of part of this too, is stop looking at the transaction and look at the impact. Right? Because if you're impacting people, you're providing a service to people and helping them, business will come naturally in time. And I see a lot of agents that are just focusing on the transaction. So if you flip that mindset to being an advisor, being a resource, being a guide for everyone in need, educating on real estate, educating on what that value is that you can provide, you're going to see business come organically and naturally over time. So I'd say with regards to renters, it's this exact same thing applies if they were in fact buyers and or sellers.
That's a great note. I love that there's more value than just the one transaction.
We look at long-term planning, the traditional real estate practice of looking at the transaction, it needs to go away. Agents are going to be phased out by AI, by, Zillow, by Redfin. There's so many disruptors in this industry. Shifting away from the transactional mindset, you're going to separate yourself tremendously from everyone. And what I mean by that is you have a buyer, they want that home. Ask them, are you going to be happy with this in 5 years, 10 years, 15? Instead of just looking at the transaction or bringing up those pieces like I talked about earlier. Well, just so you know, I know the power lines don't bother you or the road doesn't bother you, but this might be a big deal for buyers in the future. So I want to make sure that you know and show them numbers, show them projections. Hey, other homes of the same size that back up to these, this is how they've appreciated versus homes that maybe back up to a green belt or a park or a little bit more private. This is how they appreciate. You're going to obviously have a client for life, but you're going to get referrals from it because again, you're focusing on the impact, especially if they're repeat buyers, they're repeat clients. Maybe they've worked with other agents in the past. Every time I take this approach, I'm getting feedback from people who say, like, I've worked with many agents over the course of my life. No one's ever educated me on that. No one's ever told me that before. So differentiate yourself, right? Don't go against or go with the traditional, real estate practices that it is very much transactional. I see a lot of people, agents, treating clients like transactions. It's always surprising too that an agent represents a buyer, and then in 2 years, I see that home listed with a completely different agent. And it happens time and time and time again. And little things can prevent that, right? Staying in touch. I do a lot of emails, and my emails are very value driven. So I do a market update that goes out every month. And it is not the traditional market updates. I'm very against anything traditional with the industry. I'm talking about the economic factors that are causing our market to be one way or another. And I'm not talking about how many days on market. I'm not talking about average price. Most buyers or sellers don't care about that, and they don't know how to read into it. They don't know how to understand it. So I'm looking at it from a different lens, right? I'm talking about here's what our market's doing because of this. This is what these cities are doing because of this. And this is what we need to look forward to in the next few months. An analyst, looking at it from providing an analysis for buyers. Hey, buyers, this is what you want to know right now. For sellers, this is what you want to know right now. And breaking each city down by which one is a buyer's market, which one's a seller's market, so you know when to strike. So having emails, providing value, getting in front of your clients, your network is huge, but being against the traditional kind of templated emails that clients see and they don't know how to analyze it. They don't know what it means. I also do a market or a digest. It's a wealth building digest that blends real estate and financial planning. So talking about those two pieces, and it puts it in very simple terms. I don't get too complex with it, but it sparks a lot of questions. And that's the point. They see the emails, they have questions. Hey, this is my situation. I may be looking to retire. I'm looking to move. So be different, provide value. If you're not doing email, please even reach out to me. I can help you get it set up. It is so much more effective than social media because everyone's doing social media, but 1% to 2% see your post. And so many of the posts are the same. If you're doing email, they're going to see your name. They might not open that email, but they're going to see that name constantly over and over again. So email is huge. I think that is something that a lot have gone away from, or they've just stuck to a very easy way with email. It takes time, it takes work, but I can tell you from experience, email is probably one of my better services and offerings that provide a very unique value that not only impact agents, but also clients as well.
Can you go deeper into the shift in mindset from a transaction-based short-term goal to a long-term value creation partnership?
This is huge. And I see a lot of agents that don't partner with, insurance agents. Obviously, we have our financial advisors that we work with, or lenders, I should say. But the big gap is financial advisors, CPAs, tax planners, tax advisors. There is so much opportunity from those individuals that most agents don't tap into. Now, coming from the financial world, I can say with confidence, a lot of the times when I was an advisor with my advisors that worked for me, they didn't want to reach out or partner with agents because they felt like the agent would not understand financial concepts. This is where I say partner. Don't try to be an expert in everything. Don't try to step over, any professional's toes. If you can introduce someone to a tax planner that's going to completely change their financial well-being, they will always think of you for anything real estate because you were the one that made that connection. So connections, networks, partnerships, it is endless. Just think very, very broad of anything that can help impact this client. And that's where the planning calls come in, and just very, very important is you find out from someone, I want to redo my backyard. I want to redo the kitchen. Get them in touch with someone that you've worked with before. You were the one that made that vision, made that dream, made that goal come true. So again, being very much a partner with other vendors, with other professionals is definitely going to help from that transactional side. Instead of just sending here's a vendor sheet when you close, call me if you have any questions, follow up with them. I follow up every month, 3 months, 6 months, and every year, the first year, and then every 6 months at a minimum beyond that. So those are kind of some things that, shifting from that short term to long term.
You mentioned how AI is impacting the industry and how in the future it may change things even further. So, what would you say to agents who fear being phased out by AI? How do you position your value to clients?
The education that clients receive from a seasoned agent far superior than anything AI will provide. And I even see this for transactional agents, those that are more salespeople than advisors. Clients will expect more. Clients will expect, like I said, you getting them in touch with let's say it's a tax advisor, a financial advisor, someone who's going to have knowledge for their entire picture. And this is happening a lot right now where I have several clients that have utilized AI to say, this is my situation. I'm 50 years old. I own this much on my home. I have this much equity. This is my rate. I live in this state. I want to move to this state. Break it all down for me and tell me, is this reasonable? It's scary because AI will give them a very, very detailed report from a financial standpoint of saying, yes, it's possible. This is how much you're going to save. This is what you're going to do. These are some areas to look at. Where we agents know where AI sometimes falls is locations of certain areas, certain communities. I'll still plug in AI and say, family friendly area, and it pops out areas that are not family friendly. So that's where us agents need to try to bridge that gap to providing that information, to helping them get to that point to say, make that move because it's going to better, their lifestyle, their financial situation, but be that resource. The area, what's coming to the area. I think that's another big thing too to hit on. AI for the most part is just realizing or relying on articles it finds online for things such as what's coming to the area. Schools got certain rankings. What schools are no longer going to be open enrollment anymore for certain areas that have that. That's where you come in. You're that expert. You know that. Right? What's coming to the area? I see it because I drive by that street every day. I see that there's a new shopping center there that no one's talked about. So this is where things are going to separate yourself from AI. I think a lot of people have already kind of lost the personal touch. And so many people want instant answers, instant results, but they want the personal touch. And there's no kind of perfect solution for that right now. So that's where I'd say utilize AI to be your friend, but not your replacement. Kind of going back to being a resource, having partnerships. You can get AI to provide complex things that maybe you can't do, right? Financial things, breaking down math, looking at things from a different lens. If a client looks at a floor plan and doesn't know how they can convert a room or stage it or, put a furniture certain ways. If you're stumped, throw into AI. AI will help you, but keeping that personal touch. AI is not going to reach out to your clients every year. They're not going to call them to ask how they're doing. This is where you need to step in, having the emails, having the personal touch, sending gifts every now and then, very small gifts. It could be $5, $10. Amazon's your friend. You can easily find it, ship it, and it goes right to your client's doorstep. So I would say, if you're fearing being phased out of AI, step back and look at what AI does not do. It does not offer that personal touch, and it will likely be a long time, if ever, that it will offer that personal touch. So focus on the personal touch, handwritten letters, emails, video calls, planning calls. Be proactive and ask clients what they want. And I will say, if you just do that, you're not going to fear AI. AI is going to be your friend to help you.
Eric, it seems that by having these regular check-ins with your clients, you've probably developed some really strong relationships with them over the years. Do you have any client stories you could share with us?
Yeah. So I'd say from a financial lens, there's several examples that come to mind where it was with regards to not selling, where they took the asset, turned it into a rental, and saw that, hey, in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, this house is going to be paid off versus me selling it, never getting that rate back again. Right? This is very popular with people who had 3% or lower rates, never locking in that rate again, now having a much higher payment, not having the income. So I'd say that's the big piece, is just showing the options. And a lot of times with those, people just need to see the option. They need to see, I need to look at the numbers. Does it make sense for me to be a landlord? Some people don't want to do it, right? They don't want that stress. But looking at, hey, taking a homeowner exemption, you've been in the home for a while, you can claim a tax-free gain, of $200,000, $300,000. That's very rare to find in the financial world, of a tax-free gain. So I can think of several situations where it goes back to that, is just laying out the options. When someone says, I want to sell, I never instantly go to, okay, well, here's my marketing process. This is that. It's, let's step back. Why are you selling? And show them both options. This is the route if you were to keep it as a rental in a 1 year, 5 year, 10 year, 15, 20 year plus horizon. And then over here, this is what it looks like if you sell now, but we need to have a plan with what you're going to do with that money. Is that going to be to a new home? Are you going to take that and put it directly into your retirement savings, your investment account? So those are the situations. I could probably think of 15 to 20 examples of that exact conversation that people have had the aha moment or realized, one, no agent has ever walked me through this before. And two, I understand it. You gave me a report. You laid out the options. I now feel more comfortable, and obviously not having seller remorse. I wish we wouldn't have sold that 2 years ago. I wish we wouldn't have left that house. We could have moved back. We love the area. We just had kids. We wish we were back there. So I'd say just that guidance to show options and be an advisor has made a huge impact on many.
You've touched on this, but I wanted to get more specifics. How do you think the role of a real estate agent has changed? And how do you think it could change even more in the future?
Yeah, so looking ahead in the next 5 years, the role of a real estate professional changing, especially in terms of being an advisor, educator, and not just a salesperson. Yeah, so kind of goes back to disruptors, AI. They can do the transaction now. They can do the transaction completely. But in the next 5 years, I kind of see the experience, the level of service being amplified for a number of reasons. Look at any industry right now, whether it's, say, you stay at a vacation rental, you stay at a hotel. There's so much saturation out there. You want a great experience. It's not price anymore. I look at other industries. We look at healthcare. We look at modern conveniences. It's all around experience. So people are going to see saturation with AI, with transactional agents, and they're going to want that personal touch. That's how we're wired as humans. So I think that the role of an agent is going to be more shifting to a true advisor than an agent, and not focusing on being, like I said, not being a salesperson, but being an advisor and looking at it from a trust standpoint. I can fully trust this person with this transaction. I can fully trust this person with the referral. I can fully trust this person by laying out my, financial projection, whatever that looks like. And I see it being amplified too. I've had this conversation with other agents, with people in my brokerage, and we're constantly continuing to improve, right? We want to go down the road where we can be connectors. We can educate beyond, the benchmark. If we're up here doing that, clients are going to look at that and say, never had an agent who's educated me on this. I've never had an agent take that extra step, go that extra mile, pick up the pieces. If you're not getting to that point, you're going to be down here, and clients are going to expect the level of service up here. And that's where, we'll start to see those agents starting to phase out, because this level meets where AI is. People are going to go over convenience. If that's where you're at, you got to step it up. You got to be better. You got to improve a little bit more of a service to your clients.
What advice can you offer to other agents about what's worth investing in to stay educated in this industry?
One is network. I think this is one piece that's missed a lot. Go to conferences, network with other agents. A lot of agents pretend like they know everything. You don't. No, I do a lot with a lot of different things, but I make it a point to try to reach out to, at least 25 agents a week, agents that I've never met before. I'm a CRS. I reach out to CRSs on LinkedIn every single week. And the point of that obviously is to build a network, but also learn, because people in your market might be doing some things. Someone else in a completely different market is going to be doing something else, right? So that's what I would say really has helped me and a lot of people in my network, is have accountability groups. I'm in several text accountability groups where every Friday we just kind of share our wins, what's working, what's not. It's going to help you grow and obviously keep you accountable, but network, reach out. There's so many options to reach out to agents in this day and age: phone, email, social media. Reach out. If someone does something that you like and you think, you know what, I want to do that, reach out. Same thing with me. If you see something that I do on social media, anything that I've talked about today, reach out. I'm an open book. I'm going to share my playbook to help others. And I know you would do the same, right? If you do something that I see that I want to educate myself on and become better, let's be collaborators. Let's be partners, work together. So attend conferences, network, attend classes. The worst thing is, again, thinking that you know everything or thinking that you're not going to get anything out of a class. You don't know until you sign up for that class and attend. I guarantee you most people will take one nugget from a class. If it's not something directly from the class content itself, it's going to be a reminder for something that you learned before. It's going to be someone that you met. It's going to be the instructor that maybe is a mentor to you now that you can rely on them for, educational purposes. Get connected locally to economists, people who follow the real estate industry, your association, anything with regards to real estate. Read books, listen to podcasts. And I kind of make it a point that it's in my calendar. Every week I'm looking at specific articles. Every week I'm listening to podcasts. So that's what I would say is education, classes, podcasts, books, network, conferences. And, you do that too. You're going to be a step ahead from everyone else, especially in your conversations with clients. Clients will notice, wow, they actually know a lot about this market that I want to move to. They might make that transition easier. Well, yeah, I have a partner agent out there that we talk on a monthly basis. So I'm very familiar with that market as well. I can share with you, an email from them. And now you're coming off again as a connector, as a partner, and as a true advisor.
I love that you mentioned this sense of collaboration, partnership, and teamwork that I often see among CRS agents.
The one thing that I kind of had learned from the financial world was a lot of financial advisors kind of keep things close because their reach is endless. Financial advisors can cover across the country, where real estate agents, you're in a specific territory, you're in a specific state. And it still blows me away that so many agents don't reach out to other agents. I want to hit on this because I think it's important, is most agents aren't doing this, and you should. Find out where your inflow comes from, your market. See where the top 10 inflow is coming from, or maybe outflow. Where are people going to from your market? Connect with agents in those markets. Deals, referrals, opportunities will come from that. So that's something I see a lot of people dropping the ball on. This is something that I find, though, that a lot of CRS agents utilize. It's collaboration. It's finding, just from a business standpoint, well, if I have 70% of people coming from California, naturally, I'm going to reach out to agents in California, educate myself, collaborate, provide value to them so I can provide value, to their clients. So my experience with CRS and CRS agents has definitely been that step above. Not only, I wouldn't even say from a volume, from a transaction level, it's more service oriented, helping each other, even going simple things like supporting each other on social media, liking content, commenting on things, sharing emails. That's a lot of what I do. And I've talked to other CRS agents about that as well, is if you send out a great email, share it, send it out, because you don't know who in your network is going to want to be in California, in Texas, in Florida, in anywhere. Being a CRS has helped tremendously from a collaboration standpoint, a network. I said from an educational standpoint of learning from other agents, what they do, why it works for them, things to incorporate. And then, of course, for referral opportunities, we're really working together as partners, but we kind of look at, the CRS network as we're a big team. If you have a client that's moving, say, from California to Arizona, I have a team member, I have a partner in Arizona that can help you, that can guide you, that can be your resource. So that's what I'd say. Definitely recommend to everyone, work toward your CRS designation. It has so much weight in this industry, but also just the collaboration that you're going to receive from other CRS agents.
I love that we've been talking about the relationship with clients and how that's changed and how that has become so important, but also this relationship with other agents is changing and becoming very important too. So we're coming up to a close on our time. Is there anything else, Eric, that you'd like to add? Any closing thoughts?
I would say these are going to be kind of, think of them as advice, for agents, kind of takeaways. Build an educational brand. Education first. That's what the consumer, that's what your clients want. They want to be educated. Yes, they want entertainment too, but more importantly, they want to know things. And sometimes they're afraid to ask. I find that out in a lot of planning calls, is they're not mentioning things right away. And then I post something about it and they, oh, I've always been curious about this. So build that education brand, focus on the things that your clients want, send surveys out, ask questions too for your clients of what they want from you. Because if you don't ask, you never know. Learn the financial side of real estate, a topic that I feel like is not taught enough, but is where it'll separate you from most other agents, is how real estate is an asset, how it's not just a transaction, how it is an asset that can help amplify not only your life as an agent, your financial plan, but also your clients. Create long-term systems, not just short-term pipelines. Have processes where you have multiple touch points to provide value to clients and to other agents. Every single client, treat it like a 10-year relationship at a minimum. It's not a one and done. It's, oh, I got this referral, let me just close this deal. It is a 10-year relationship. So that's, you're helping that client, you're helping their neighbors, and you're asking for referrals, and you're asking for the opportunity to serve those that they know. And lastly, just stop chasing deals, build strategy, build trust, be a subject matter expert, and, just provide value. I really want to invite anyone, any topics that you heard about, you want more information, like I said, you want the playbook, I will give it to you. Everything that I've done, I'm happy to be a resource. I'm happy to be a guide.
This is such a great idea, being a resource and continuing to improve ourselves and each other. Thank you, Eric, for being with us. This has been such a really thoughtful episode.
Thanks for listening to Real Estate Real Talk. If you like what you just heard, we hope you'll pass along our web address, crs.com/realtalk, to your friends and colleagues. Please leave us a positive review wherever you listen to our podcast, and be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous episodes. This has been a Residential Real Estate Council production. Join us next time for another edition of Real Estate Real Talk.